Hey YouTube, welcome back to our channel. So I thought today we would take a little walk around our John Deere 2320, which we've had featured in several of the videos that we've done. And I wanted to give a little review of this particular machine because we've owned it since 2009, right around there, so it's 13 years or so. And we bought it as a tractor loader backhoe unit. And we have other attachments for it. We have a 4-foot brush hog. We've got a post hole digger attachment, 3-point hitch connect. We've also got a 54-inch drive over mower deck for it, and we've got a bagger system that goes with the with that. And that's pretty much all the attachments that we bought for this machine. It's about 24.5 horsepower machine. Like I said, we've owned it for quite some time now, well over 10 years. It's got about 724 hours on it, and it's been serviced regularly. And I thought I would go through and just talk a little bit about our experience with this machine. We broke a spindle off of the transmission, where it comes out of the bottom of the transmission to drive the front wheels for 4-wheel drive operation. We did that when we were digging out some honeysuckle bushes on some property that we own. That required basically what they call splitting the transmission, where they had to take the entire body apart, take the seat and the fenders and everything off, and then split the transmission apart, and then replace that little drive spindle that came out. That was done by John Deere. In addition, and I mentioned this I think in some of our other videos, these quick connects have a tendency to leak. I'm not really sure why. There's a little O-ring inside. The O-ring fails and then they leak, and I've been trying to find the O-ring because there's not really a part number with John Deere for the O-ring. So I've tried different O-rings from different manufacturers, both metric and standard. They last for a little while and then they fail. I get the most longevity out of just replacing the entire unit, which is, you know, I think at the time I replaced it, it was around $30 for one of them. So it can be a pricey fix versus, you know, a few cents for an O-ring. So that's been a problem. We did have a seal fail on the front wheel on the left side here, which we replaced, drained all the fluid out and replaced that seal, which again, that can happen, but I think I had around 500 hours on it when that failed. We replaced the battery, general maintenance type issues, you know, fuel filters, oil filters, hydraulic filters have all been replaced at one time or another. The tires have both have tubes in them. They're not loaded tires, but they've failed. We've always picked up some sort of, you know, screw or stick or something which has punctured the tire and then required us just to put tubes in them. We could fill them. Probably would be a good idea, although, you know, a lot of people put they load the tires. We probably could have done it, but I'll tell you, for the 9 years that we used it mainly for brush hogging, mowing, some digging with the backhoe, we've never really needed to have loaded tires, although I'll tell you, many a time that I've been out there in the field with it, or driving around with it, I was like, geez, you know, lifting something up in the bucket, gravel or stone or sand. I was like, it'd be nice to have these tires loaded. We just never did it. So there's one other thing I should mention. There's a drive shaft, right? Comes out of the engine, goes back into the transmission to drive the wheels, right? So there's a spindle that comes out of the top of the transmission and hooks that drive shaft. So on each end of the drive shaft, there's a universal joint. And the problem is, when they manufactured the tractor, they didn't put a grease fitting on either of the U-joints. So what happens is they have a tendency to wear out, and when they wear out, that shaft breaks off at whatever RPM the engine's running at and causes either damage to the engine compartment, or the transmission. The fix was to take that drive shaft out, replace the U-joints with greasable U-joints, which I did. That's not a major job. I mean, you got to take off the plate here, you know, you got to take off the cover, but if you're, you know, got a little bit of mechanical ability, it's not a major operation to do. The hardest part is getting the, there's a ring that clips the drive shaft to the engine, and you got to pry that ring back, pop it off, and then pop off the drive shaft, take it out, replace it. So that was done. And then of course, it's not really easy to grease. The back one's not too bad to get up from underneath the tractor. The front one, you got to take this off, and there's an access cover, I think, on the other side. Plate you take off, rotate the shaft, find the grease fitting, and grease it up. Some people have actually cut this spot right here where that panel is and put like a plug in there, so you just pull it off and then look right through and grease the machine easier that way. So that is about all of the issues we have. That was a preventative issue. Didn't have anything to do with the lower spindle, which drives the front wheels for the four-wheel drive braking. The good. This machine has performed excellent for us, for what we've asked it to do. Aside from the one breaking of the spindle coming out of the transmission, other than that, and that may have been, you know, using the machine for a little bit more than it was really designed to do, digging out this rather large honeysuckle bush with the bucket. It's really performed well. The backhoe, the John Deere 46 backhoe, great little machine for like little landscaping jobs, digging trenches. You saw where we dug out some material to fill in holes. I've dug through rock, I've dug through clay, I've dug through shale with it. It's really done a fine job. I like the folding ROPS. Folding ROPS are nice, so we can get it into a garage with a without you know, having a 14-foot ceiling, or 10-foot ceiling anyway. So the backhoe's been really good for us for everything we've needed to do. We've got an excavator, so for big jobs we can use the excavator, but for little jobs, homeowner operations, gentleman farming, you know, digging post holes. If you don't have a post hole digger, you can dig post holes with it. Drainage, putting in you know, little drain fields, things like that. It's going to go a little slower because it's not a big machine. It's not an excavator on tracks. It can run right around, but it really does a nice job. So the bucket's always performed pretty well for us. We've got some teeth that mount on it, which I think is one of the reasons why when we were digging out that honeysuckle bush that the spindle and the transmission snapped, but at least that's what John Deere's argument was. The bucket's good. I mean, it picks up, I think the most I picked up with it is around 900 pounds, something like that. And it does it, but it's not going to lift up, you know, you see those people with those totes that they fill up with firewood or something like that. It's not going to pick that up. You need a much bigger tractor for that. The bucket's been fine. I welded some hooks onto it, which make it a lot more useful when you're trying to move things around or lift things up. The backhoe hooks up. It's a full frame backhoe, so you can see where it hooks onto the frame there. You might even be able to see that spindle back in there that broke with that drive shaft back in there. Yeah, it's a full frame, which is nice. It's not just a 3-point hitch, which, you know, are flimsy, I think, and have a tendency to break. It's easy to hook up. There's, you know, the 2 pins in the front, and it rests on 2 pins that come out from the back there. Hooks up to the hydraulics. Really has been an easy implement to use on us. You take that off, you put on your 3-point hitch bars, and you can put any 3-point hitch implement you want. We put the Brushhog on, we put our post hole digger on. It's always worked really well. The only thing you can't do with it is when, like, you're digging a hole with the auger. You know, sometimes you want to reverse the flow. This does not allow it to do it as configured. So that's always a little bit of an issue. You start digging in the ground, next thing you know, you're screwing yourself into the ground, the tractor, front of the tractor's lifting up. So you got to be a little careful when you're digging post holes, and especially in the type of material that you're digging it in. Other than that, we've had the 54-inch drive over deck on it, which it mows great. It has a 3-bagger system. That worked great. No real issues at all with that. The bags did wear out. So I throw that into the sort of the category of, you know, general wear and tear items that need to be replaced. But other than that, it's really run well. I've had no problems with the engine, knock on wood. And aside from the hydraulics couplings. Other than that, it's been a great machine. It really has, for what I needed it to do. So I'm not getting paid by John Deere to make a video for them to talk about their John Deere 2320. I just thought, because I've owned it for going on 13 years anyway, I thought I'd fill you in on my experience with it and how I think it's performed, in my opinion. And I think overall, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10 for performance. Just when that spindle broke was kind of disappointing. So if you're looking to buy a used one, I would check on that drive shaft that connects the engine to the transmission and the U-joints, and see if they've made that modification. That's the only main thing that I would be a little bit concerned about. And like I said, this has 724 hours on it. Still going strong. So I hope you liked the videos. I hope you found it helpful and informative. And if you did, please like, subscribe, share, and help us keep the channel going. Thanks. See you next time.